cool and clear on an 8-race Sunday afternoon. We're about 60 minutes out from the opener, and perhaps we'll get a glimpse of a future star or two, considering the first 3 races today on the program here at Gulfstream Park West are 2-year-old restricted maiden heats. We'll see what shakes out. We've got our present star, no doubt about that, Ron Nicoletti, Jason Blewett alongside. Hope you're having a great weekend as we continue on, Ronnie, in the final 6 cards. It begins at about 1:20.
Yeah, 1:20 today, and of course the big news is the Rainbow Six a little later on in race number 3. And when you're handicapping, both races 1 and 3 have been taken off the turf today. So, and that third race is the first leg of that Rainbow Six.
Absolutely. We'll get to the carryovers in just a second, but your friendly daily reminder per se here on GPW today that we are just now 12 days out from that opening day card across town with the championship season at Gulfstream Park. That'll be Friday, November 29th. Lots of renovations going on over in Hallandale Beach, and boy, we really, Ronnie, from that opening Friday program the day after Thanksgiving into the opening Saturday card on November 30th with 6 2-year-old stakes, really don't miss a beat off the bat.
No, we start right away, and then just right the next week. The next Saturday is the Claiming Crown, and then Carib Classic. It just goes on and on. That's the fantastic thing about the championship meet.
Now, 6 full cards, including today's 8-pack, remain here in Miami Gardens this autumn at Gulfstream Park West. Will the Jackpot Rainbow Six carryover, which continues to teeter in the realm, or at least on the verge of $1 million type carryover situation, will it continue over the last 6 programs? We'll see. We also have 2,100 up for grabs, or at least in the kitty, in the Super High 5 at a very difficult off-the-turf 2-year-old maiden claimer with 12 to start the car. But that is a nice chunk of change, man, back in that race 3 Rainbow.
Oh, yeah, 861. It's going over the $1 million today, I believe, I would think, but we'll see. But we've been, like you said, just right under the $1 million, and you can have it for 20 cents.
Absolutely. And, yeah, come on in. The water's delightful, everybody. All right, first post, 1:20, 1:25 p.m. We'll dive into that opening early pick 5 on this fast and good Sunday afternoon, already November 17th. And, boy, I worked on this ticket for quite some time. And in the end, I just opted to go a little deeper, specifically in this first race, and said, you know, I'll just take my chances singling in the third, the number 9, Shiza. I see Ronnie with the surface switch has that horse as well. Was Shiza your top pick for the turf, too?
Yeah, it was my top pick for the turf, and I just added the 8 when I did it on my ticket, but I think the 9 is still the one to beat in there.
Well, I hope you're right. John Service, in fact, setting out his first starter here this season at Gulfstream Park West. That horse will anchor a play, and it's a little pricey for my standards, especially in a race starting out that if I'm being honest, I don't have a wickedly strong opinion. But, man, I said to Ronnie as we were getting prepped for this show, it's a very difficult pick 5 and a hard card, I think, from front to back. Now, I am 4 deep and very much more or less directed in the direction of the mid-pack to outside posted 2-year-old fillies in this off-the-turf 20K maiden claimer. You and I certainly in the same zip code there, Ronnie, looking at our superfecta horses. I wound up going to the 9, Vicky the Best, hoping that you got the improvement last time out. Maybe it was just a case of a horse who didn't like the sloppy track in her debut, and maybe it wasn't just the turf with a less than perfect trip. Maybe she's just heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think the drop to the $20,000 level is going to really help in it with Vicky the Best. It's sort of the same situation with Golden Ole. He's dropping to the 20 level after vying for the lead and fading at the quarter pole, finished 5th. That was those 50 on the grass. But this horse, this is the cheapest level. This horse is going to face anybody on the dirt.
Yep.
The other ones were not this kind. So maybe Golden Ole, maybe Vicky the Best. And I see you bump the horse that's going to get in off the also eligibles, 13. That's the major player in here for Rubber Falcone Jr.
Yeah, that is the 13, Ruthila, who, much like Vicky the Best, seemed to improve second time out, and that coincided with the move to the turf. She's by Kozan, discreetly mined dam, so let's hope it's not. If you're using her or like her for Falcone and Christian on the outside, let's hope it's a case of her, much like my top selection, just again, taking increments forward, and it wasn't just the turf that brought out her best last time.
Yeah, and you know, usually when you take it off the turf, you get a lot of scratches. That was not the case today. So a big, full field, everybody's running in race number 1.
Definitely, and we stay. It's kind of a neat little wrinkle to this card, or at least just fact that you've got 3 consecutive 2-year-old maiden races to kick off the program. Now, clearly, of the opening pick 3 in the juveniles, the classiest field, perhaps, is the second, just because it's obviously a maiden special weight. We bring on the 2-year-old fillies. They will sprint 6 furlongs on the dirt. And this race, in terms of just sheer numbers, dominated by first-time starters. And we'll talk about a couple of them after we get into Ronnie's top pick, the 7, Galit Jack. I wanted to go back and look at this horse first time out, this filly by Carpe Diem, who had a little bit of trouble. It wasn't race-ending trouble or anything like that, but she steadied, and things got a little awkward for her into the far turn. I look at this race, Ronnie, I think in the end, although I am not in love, if I can be so honest, with the field that she's coming out of, I don't think this was the strongest 2-year-old filly maiden special weight race we ran throughout the fall here at Gulfstream Park West. This struck me as a filly who maybe a combination of her needing this race and not loving being down towards the inside. She tried to get out and couldn't, and you'll see the race unfold essentially. And all those horses 3 wide and out have the momentum, and she seemed to really kind of hit the brakes down inside.
Yeah, it looked like she didn't want to go into that whole, and she was just not comfortable after that steady. It looked like she was, they had a re-rally, then they had to sort of like sit behind a wall of horses in there. And it's a good barn. I'm going to show you stat on Gilberto Zerpa before we show you. Get into Jason's top pick. Gilberto Zerpa with his 2-year-olds making their second career start on the dirt. He's 7 for 13, 54%, 62% in the money. 241 is the return of investment. So the point is, you were expecting this horse to take a positive step forward, maybe with a little cleaner trip.
And there's been an uptick in Gilberto's output and just the quality of his stock, I think, from front to back. He picked up a very good-looking 2-year-old maiden victory here yesterday in the second race, coincidentally, a New Year's Day colt. 2-year-old, naturally, named Master Day, who looked pretty good and pretty professional. So we'll see how Galit Jack does and goes in this second race. Again, for me, she ran well. I just don't love that race against Choose Joy and some of the others. And I think a live firster will be very dangerous here. And, in fact, I am all firsters in the top 2 spots. Having landed on the 4, Aunt Nadine. I like that she was a yearling purchase for $37K, pinhook for 55 Gs, first full out of a dam who was 0 for 3 on the track. But boy, we've seen a real uptick even this week alone with Jorge Navarro. It just seems now the winners late in the season are starting to pile up.
Yeah, it's starting to pile up. Just with his 2-year-old first-time starters, he's got that 1 win over the last 30 days. But this horse really working up a storm for the debut. I'm expecting this horse to run exceptionally well. Use the 1 and 2nd Beast of Wildwood. This one debuts with Scott Becker. I would like this one a little more if it wasn't on the rail. That was my thought process.
I had stopped by for my Florida Bred Friday and got a stall video this past Friday, and it's on Twitter if you want to check it out, of Wildwood's Beauty, who's trained by Scott Becker. And Scott, although based out in the Midwest, has got a good crew here running the show at Gulfstream or over at Gulfstream in South Florida. Chatting with the assistant, he said this filly has been very good in the gate. She's very smart, and she's been very quick out of the starting gate. But his concern was yours. She's doing well, he told me, but he doesn't like the inside post.
Well, it's good that she's breaking out of there sharp, because if you can get out sharp and not get encumbered, you can run pretty well in there. And Scott does a good job. So, we're basically in agreement once again with our superfecta boxed around. I think those are the logical ones, but you got to try and pare down your ticket not to go for 4 in each leg.
Definitely. And this was, again, a very challenging early pick 5 sequence that will continue, of course, with race 3 alongside Ronnie's Rainbow 6 ticket. So don't go anywhere. Back with more. Still in its infancy. What a just a three-race sort of win streak, if you will, with the Pegasus World Cup Dirt. Just like hearing Pete's calls and seeing little snapshots between Arrogate, Gunrunner, and, of course, City of Light. Let's hope, Ronnie, moving forward into late January of 2020, the weatherman cooperates a little better, perhaps. That was a wet third running of the Pegasus last January.
Yeah, that was, but we still got that turf race off, and what a performance that was. So the inaugural turf last year, now we'll have again this year, and I think it's going to be perfect weather.
All right, you heard it here. You know who to blame, folks, if you put the hoodoo on it. Let's hope there is no hoodoo. We want positive vibes always, of course, and I think that's a good segue, Ronnie, diving into a very Pegasus-like or championship meet type over at Gulfstream Park carryover, 860K plus. What are you doing?
Well, I stepped it up today to $57.60 because, as you said, it's just a hard card throughout.
Yep.
And I figured with the $1 million, I'll get a couple of more bucks out of my pocket to do it. The third race is that other race we were telling you about that came off the turf, but I kept Shizer on top. Our Fantasy and Lemon Drop Tinny were the horses I used 3 deep in there. 6 and 8 in race 4. That's Peppy the Hunter and Spin Cycle. And race number 5, 3D, Bullgratz, Frankie App, Slick Star. That one on the turf this afternoon. Yodelehu, you might want to single here. This horse is just doing so well. He's working well. I think there's going to be some people single in there. But I did go 2 deep. And you see in the last race today, I was confused by the last race. I got my long shot in there with Cat Quick, which isn't a very big price. But, you know, it's a lovely day. Benita and the morning line favorite to 6. I couldn't leave Safi Joseph off the ticket. So 57.60 is what bumped my ticket up that last race. I was not positive about it.
No, it's hard to have confidence. And, I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, you've got maybe the top 2 choices, one going out for Jason Service as he makes his unveiling here this meet. In fact, both the Service boys are in action, with John sending out a horse in the upcoming third race, Shiza, who we both like, and Jason sending out It's a Lovely Day. And then you've got Safi on the quick 9-day turnaround with First Off, who showed nothing a week and a half ago. But for Safi to run her back, I'm going to put my faith in Safi. But your point well taken there, Ronnie. Again, we may end with a Jason Service victory down the line in the nightcap. Let's start, though, at least as far as we're concerned, fingers crossed, with John in the winner's circle, sending out the 9 Shiza, who I had to go back to the drawing board personally. I hadn't picked this horse when this race was originally carded for the turf. A moot point now as it goes at 7 on the main. And this just strikes me as the kind of filly who was well bet in her lone dirt start and is well spotted here for 50 G's.
Yeah, drop it to the 50 level, turning back. This distance will now be 7 furlongs, stalk the pace. Finished 4th. That was against those maiden special weight competition, going a mile on the Belmont turf. But that race, this one ran okay, sprinting, as you mentioned, on the Laurel Main track, where this horse took money. And that was my thought process. Kathleen's horse, the number 8, who we both have in second, ran okay on the dirt in its debut, stretching out to 7/8 of a mile. And that's why when I originally did the turf, I went back and added this horse.
I think 7 could be a good fit for that horse. Filly, in fact, by Amira's Prince. She's based here at Gulfstream West, and I think a little more real estate for her to play around with from 5.5 to 7. Combined with her second start, she is going to step up and run a very good race. However, it's a tough spot. I mean, you know, again, this race originally carded for the turf. It's now on the dirt. You've also got a number of new face ship-ins. We already discussed the 9 Shiza with Hyro for John Service. We've also got one of the good guys here, much like John and Rodolphe Brisset, setting out the 11, Lemon Drop Tinny, who does seem a good fit here for 50K. I do think, and I know you've got the good stat here with blinkers on, this, to me, looks like a turf pedigree with this horse.
Well, I had 9-11, to be perfectly honest, when I handicapped this race for the turf.
Right.
And I added, as I said, Kathleen. But Lemon Drop Tinny is dropping to the maiden claims, adding blinkers. First start, finished 4th against that special weight competition up at Keeneland. But they keeping this horse in. And here's a stat that I found interesting with Rudolph Brisset. Just first-time blinkers at all levels on turf and dirt. He's 7 for 34, 21%, 65% of the money, and 258 is the return of investment. That's just over the last couple of years, because he's just been training the last couple of years. When he went out on his own, he was with Bill Mott, of course, before that. And I just think that this horse, I love this horse on the turf today,
Right.
along with the 9, but we'll see how this one runs on the main track.
No, top trader. I mean, yet another new face, obviously, coming out of one of, if you could just line up the quote-unquote traditional racing universities, hard to get a better education than working alongside the one and only, the great Hall of Famer Bill Mott. And I think when I see even the video of Rodolphe, I think of a Royal Delta because he rode her in the mornings. And boy, I mean, they got along great. And she was looking back, I mean, she was one of those all-time great race mares, wasn't she?
Yeah, I got to find that hat for you. Remember, I told you I got to look for it. I keep forgetting to look for it. It's in my house.
That's right up my alley. Was a huge, like many of you, a huge fan of Royal Delta. We'll turn the page. We come up on the 4th. And we stay on the dirt for the 4th consecutive time today. We'll start the late pick 5, and this is a tricky opening leg. This is almost like, in many respects, Ronnie, a Monmouth Park race, because you've got the 2 Jersey shippers for Navarro who have both found their way on my ticket, the 5 Bastoletto and the 6 Pepe the Hunter. And let's not forget a horse you used in the Rainbow Six for my buddy Ken Sweezy, who's a former assistant to Jimmy Jerkins in Spin Cycle. They're 3 Jersey shippers. They are present on that $27 opening leg. I've got 2 in the 5th race. I see a lot of speed in there. I don't think my top pick, the 4 Temple Mount, is the most talented, but I'm hoping it's a perfect storm. And if one of the speeds does win, I think it's going to be the 1 Frankie Apps. Speaking of speed, Yodelei, who has just been speedy, has been monstrous, and although I respect the 8 Rayo My King, who Ronnie used as his other horse, I'm going to single the odds-on morning line favorite there for Safi. Coverage in the last 2 legs, including every bit of the speedy number 3 Bendita in the nightcap, the 5 It's a Lovely Day shipping in for Jason, and I'm putting my faith in my man Safi, having first off ready to go on that quick week-and-a-half turnaround in a very, very tricky and tumultuous nightcap on this Sunday afternoon. Jorge Navarro, though, Ronnie, has the horse that I like and is pretty well backed in the early doubles. That Aunt Nadine, she may be the firster you want going forward, but he's got, I mean, the other side of the coin. This is clearly a barn that excels with quality older geldings, and between the 5 Bastoletto, who's a reclaim who I picked, and the very speedy, quality-filled Pepe the Hunter, I mean, you've got a really nice tag team for that barn.
Yeah, this one, Pepe the Hunter, is debuting locally for Jorge after highlighting its versatility when he followed a commanding victory against those 6,250 types at Penn National. He comes back, and he's solid right again. Front-running victory, going a mile in the 16th on the Meadowlands turf. You think maybe he's a little cheap in the spot? I don't think so. I want to show you stat on Jorge, what horse is going turf to dirt, and they were a winner last time out. He's 13 for 30, 43%, 60% in the money, and a $3.18 return of investment. Spin Cycle and Bastoletto, who actually finished just behind Pepe the Hunter when they hooked up at Monmouth, I believe, a couple of starts back.
Yeah, maybe that was the impetus for Navarro to go back in and claim this horse. I mean, because obviously Pepe the Hunter, I mean, this is my kind of gelding. Very little pedigree to speak of, at least being by U.S. Ranger. He's 10 for 42. And, again, to lay up Bastoletto off a $5,000 reclaim for about 3.5 months and get Edgar today, I think that gelding by Curlin will run well. And, again, Spin Cycle is coming in off 2 really much improved performances. He was terrific leaving the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, back-to-back victories going that mile and 70-yard distance during October. You mentioned Ken Sweeney, and you got Nick Warris. You get a lot of Jersey going on in this race here.
Yeah, oddly enough, Paco isn't on one of the first 3 favorites. He'll pilot for Mary Epler on the 1 double whammy, who's coming out of a tough field. That 2-dare Charlie the Greek field was okay back in late September over in Hallandale. Turning the page, coming up on race number 5. Again, we only run 8 on this 6th-to-final program of the season here at GPW. We've got a 2-lifetime 3-and-up turf sprint here. There's the operative word, 5-furlong dash. And I just see, like I said with the 4 Temple Mount, I see a lot of speed in this race. And he doesn't look all that good, Ronnie. I know you're putting your blinkers on to take kind of a closer look. Here's what I'll say about him. I do think many of the major players may in the end just adversely affect one another. I'm hoping between Frankie Apps on the rail, maybe a little number 3, 5-star recruit, Bullgratz, and towards the outside, the 9 Slick Star, I'm hoping there's some hitting. I also view Temple Mount's last race, his first sprinting on the turf since being moved over to trainer Juan Ciavilla. I am viewing that as just a good sign. He didn't run lights out, but it was a big improvement for him, and I think a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, and he closed to be third, and that was your thought process to have a closer in there. So a good pick. I did go with the 6 in here, Bull Gratz, who's dropping to the 10 level today. First start, he dueled early, and he faded to finish 5th. That was against those 16 condition claimers. That was on the dirt. It was during August. Angel Rodriguez has this gelding really working sharply, and this owner, Frank Calabrese, that's what he does. He drops down, and that's why I went with Bull Gratz. Frankie App's been knocking on the door. He's the beaten favorite in 3 consecutive races. I got him in second. He's got to get over that chalk burning status.
He does, and as he gets a new rider in Christian Torres, who again still has that tenuous lead, I think he's up by 2 on everybody. I think Amiseo is in second right now with 28, and we'll get a real-time update with the stats before we say goodbye in a few moments. I think Frankie Apps has shown he's a need-to-lead horse. He just doesn't, to me, seem as effective. Not that he's run poorly when he hasn't made the lead, but I do think his best races, even when he's been beaten, it's when he's on the point.
Yeah, I mean, and he's right there at the wire, so it's hard to leave him off. And one other horse that you have in 4th, I have in 3rd, Slick Star, steps up, faces winner, won that race by that hard-fought nose. But it's Orby Mirage. He's like 30% winning consecutive races. So one of the horses that this race, I went 3 deep. This one had me a little concerned, but you might be right, just getting a closer in a race stocked with speed. Speed that doesn't like to go past the finish line first.
Right, which that is a good segue on the other side of the spectrum, kind of just moving into race number 6. And this is one of the Sunday highlights, at least as far as I'm concerned. Like the second race field quite a bit, and the fact that you've got some hard hitters inside to out, but maybe none more in the zone right now than the 6 Yodeleihu. And once again, this just strikes me, and he hasn't run yet for Safi, at least in an afternoon race. This horse just strikes me as Safi jumping in and probably at the time paying a bit of a premium. You claim a horse that was originally taken off Lonnie Atterburn for a quarter. You jump in, you claim him off Zerpa for 40. I get all that, but, man, it just looks like Safi. And let's backtrack. This is 3 works ago, in fact, when Yodeleihu, this was pre-Breeders' Cup Classic, 7 days out from the Classic, in fact, with Math Wizard outside and Yodeleihu down inside. It strikes me that this horse has just really found a good groove because he's continued even off this subsequent workout. He's had 2 breezes since, Ronnie. He just hasn't missed a beat.
No, he's doing very well. And what I like about this gelding, too, you look at his record at the distance, 4 starts, 2 wins in 2 seconds. The last one, his victory was a 1-turn mile at Gulfstream. So I like the fact that he can handle his distance and just a workout pattern here. And as I mentioned early on when I was talking about my Rainbow Six ticket, it's going to be a lot of people's singles, and it is yours, and rightly so. I think it's the one to beat, but I did use Rayo, my king, who's stepping up, stretching out.
He was good last time, Rayo, my king, wasn't he?
Yeah, and, you know, he's stepping up for Orban Robert. He was that, what, he win by 7 lengths last time against those condition claimers. And, you know, I just thought he was someone that I had to put on my ticket, safety-wise, you know. But I think Yodeleihu, if you put those A and B tickets together, this one you single somewhere in there. Rayo, my king, maybe you put on another one along with, I used Zorb in 3rd. I just wanted to say Zorb is by Orb. So that's why I used him. He's coming back to 6.
Did you put that in? Oh, Zorb. Zorb is by Orb. Nice.
So I just like, no. But Dave Fisher, Edgar Prado, named throughout. We'll see how that horse runs.
And Gnarly, by the way, he's been a quiet success story the last couple of months for Fernando Abreu. It sounds silly, but I walked away from his last a little disappointed, and I'm thinking maybe 7 is just a little further than he wants to go, and just shortening up a half a furlong to 6.5 today. Not an easy field, that's obvious, but I thought Gnarly, he's got his work cut out for him, but he might run better because his race 2 and 3 back, those were good efforts there for Fernando, and he'll have Paco from the inside. Let's move on to race number 7. We hope, again, we're on the turf for the remainder of the meet, Ronnie. Obviously, the 1st and 3rd have been moved to the main track on a cool and clear Sunday afternoon, but races 5 and 7 are on. And as we bring on these turf-bound $16,000 claimers, I wanted to go back off the bat. He's probably not favored here, but watch this ride and just the overall strength and athleticism from jockey Edgar Zayas with the 3 Solar Warming. I mean, Edgar just rode a perfect race. I mean, got his position up close, tracked inside in the pocket. You watch this 3-wide move, and this is a victory. I forgot just how tenuous this stretch drive was. This was a victory that at this point wasn't totally destined, but in the end, you've got Edgar, who, again, has got the strength and that athleticism outside. And this was not only getting in front of King Leonardo, who was down inside. He actually won this race going away. Very good ride, very strong effort. Is he good enough stepping up and trying tougher?
Well, I had him a little further down the ticket there and everything. I really like a horse in here that you have in second, and that is Gunslinger. A perfect 2 for 2 at the distance. Turns back to this mile, the first race, and setting the pace. Finished second against those claimers going a mile into 16th up at Laurel. Mary Epler, Paco Lopez, 6-1 on the morning line. And I don't think we're getting that. There's a couple of scratches in there, but I just think Gunslinger in here is the one to beat. I like this horse. I was tempted to single this one, but I had to use Victor Lounge, the horse you had on top.
Who's dropping? I like Victor Lounge, and he's been a little bit inconsistent. I think looking at the big picture since being claimed by Mike Maker about 11 months ago, give or take, last December down here in Florida. At times he's been good, at other times maybe not so good, but here's the thing with Victor Lounge, Ronnie, and I'm sure it's not lost on you. Second back, and these are easier horses.
Yeah, drop it to this level, stretching out to the mile. He tracked, he was 5 wide, but that was 35 starter. Optional claim is going 7, and it's Mike Maker. Jairo Rendon does an excellent job on the turf. How do you lead this horse off? I couldn't. So even though I like Gunslinger, I wanted to save something with Victor Lounge to be on the ticket.
Sounds good, and we obviously know where you stand in the 8th. Not only does this upcoming dirt finale, a 2-lifetime 3-and-up filly mare claiming dirt sprint, house Ronnie's long shot, but you, like me, were pretty confused in looking at it, and I just have to think in the end it comes down to just confidence and maybe lack thereof in that department. The 3 Benditas probably fastest of all. Question is she good enough with some new shooters, and can she withstand, with her speed and stamina at times a little bit of a question, can she go the trip? You've got the Jason Service runner, the 5, It's a Lovely Day, whose form in Jersey wasn't great, wasn't terrible. For a service horse, though, when I saw his name, I thought she'd look a little better. She'd look a little better on paper than I think she is. You've got Safi's horse, the 6 First Off, who just bombed and didn't lift a hoof here 9 days ago off a long layoff. Like I said, this is my faith in Safi. And let's hear about your long shot on the day, the number 7, Cat Quick. Who would, it's funny, Ronnie. Okay, you're coming in off a bottom-level maiden 10 score with this filly by Mission Impassable. In many respects, perhaps, there aren't that many questions to be answered with her because she's in good form right now.
Yeah, and I just thought I'd get a little bit of a price. She's stepping up to the next level. She dueled throughout, and she had that driving finish against those 10 maidens going at this 6.5 furlongs. Bobby Hess Jr. and Christian Torres. I think that's going to help him. You talk about It's a Lovely Day. Comes out of a sort of key race, but this is a $185,000 daughter of Flatter. I thought maybe it could be beat. Of course, I'm afraid of Safi because he does such a great job. And Bendita, like you said, with the 10-pound bug, he's going.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to last, but he's going.
Yeah, no, that is Alberto Burgos, who, much like our leading rider here at the meet, Christian Torres, born and raised in Puerto Rico. And Christian, congratulations to him. It's not over yet. There's work to be done on this 8-race Sunday, but he's obviously the first rider and was yesterday to hit the big 3-0 this meet at GPW.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're all so close. MSCL right there, 28. He had a 3-win a day the other day. And so you never know when these guys are going to jump up and reel off 3, 4, 5.
It makes it fun, though. Being a fan and just watching this coming down to the wire for sure. All 4 of those guys and a talented list of jockeys in action throughout the afternoon. And I think that's a good sort of segue and passing the baton to another talented. He's not a jockey, but he's good up in that race booth. That is track announcer Jason Beam, who's coming up with those Sunday scratches and changes.